As you can tell, I really love my hoodies. So I was listening to I Surrender by Hillsong Worship, and it got me thinking. It got me thinking a lot about what it actually means to surrender. I had a lot of questions like, what is surrender? What do we surrender? Who do we surrender to? What happens at the moment of surrender? And what happens after we surrender? Tons and tons of questions like that. I even asked some of you what your thoughts were on the matter, and you had some pretty interesting answers. Before we get to the nitty-gritty, I would like to thank you for becoming members and Patreon partners. These videos are made possible because of your love and support to the channel. As some of you may know, I set a goal for 2022 to learn how to play piano, and if you are a YouTube member, you can go over to the communities tab and see how that's going. Whether you're a Christian or not, wanting to know the Creator more is something that we desire, I think, at a very deep level. There was a time where I was rebellious. I rebelled against the Great Spirit. And this song reminded me of the day that I actually came to surrender. I just came to a point where I was tired of fighting him, and I said, I know that you exist. This is something that I know at my core, but I don't know what that means. Could you help me understand that? I know that you're there, so I surrender. So hearing this song for the first time was a beautiful experience because it reminded me of being wrapped up in his arms and feeling safe and secure. If you're the one singing it, you're saying, here I am, down on my knees again. And what does it mean to be down on your knees again? It's a sign of vulnerability. Being vulnerable and surrendering all, which is actually what you're saying in this song, is that I'm ready to give all. When life isn't going your way, when everything you touch falls apart, where every decision that you make ends up being a bad one or puts you in a bad position, you come to the Great Spirit and you say, I surrender. Now, to most Christians, what they mean is, I tried it my way and now I give up and I'm going to try it your way. It's not my will, but your will be done. What you're saying is, I leave it up to you, God. In my observation, humans exist on 4 different levels. We exist on a physical level, a mental, an emotional, and a spiritual level. We all live and operate on all 4 levels, but some of us operate more on one than we do the others. What we often find is that these 4 parts are working out of alignment. Every one of them operates independently, each one of them carrying out their own will and chasing after their own desires. And in most cases, never working together towards a common goal. In my observation, the quality of living for a human being is highly dependent on which of these 4 levels you most identify with. All right, so let's talk about the 4 groups. The first group are the people that identify with the body. The common problem that this group faces is that they get dragged around by their senses, chasing after every pleasurable experience that they could find, in most cases ignoring their reasoning, their emotions, and their intuition. The next group identifies mostly with their mind. The common issue that this group faces is that they overthink, overanalyze, and record a lot of painful experiences and then project that pain into the future. They suffer in the mind. Then we have the emotional group, the people that live in their heart. They strongly identify with their emotions, and the problem that they face is that they hijack the mind to overthink and overanalyze. And in that overthinking and overanalyzing are either paralyzed by fear or they make impulsive decisions based on their feelings. They suffer in their heart. Very few people fit into this last group. These are the people that identify strongly with their spirit. The problem that this group faces is that they're constantly conflicted by the ideas of the mind and the feelings of the heart. It's extremely challenging for them to live completely grounded in the truth when the mind and the heart are constantly at odds with each other. I've discovered that for me, living a life completely grounded and centered in the spirit is the best way for me to overcome and be free of my suffering. For a person who lives in the spirit is what animates this body. It's what experiences feelings. It's what experiences thought. Identifying strongly as the spirit allows me to see that this body is nothing more than a vessel to get me through this world and do the work that's been assigned to me. That the mind is another tool that allows me to observe the world and map it out and make sense of it, and allows me to think things through and reason with other people. And it allows me to see that my emotions are another tool as well that allows me to connect with people and to bond with my loved ones and to experience that love with them enough to protect them from harm. It also has useful tools like fear that allows me to know what to do in the presence of a snake or a tiger. For me, identifying with the spirit allows me to align all of those elements, to bring all those parts of me to work together towards something good, to help me make better decisions, to help me avoid the dangers, and to serve as a scope that allows me to keep my eye on the goal and not miss my mark. So you're probably thinking, Leo, what does that have to do with surrender? And I got you. See, most of you, when you come to that point of surrender, it's usually because you've hit the lowest point of your life. You know that your drinking is a problem. You know that your smoking is a problem. The stealing, the lying, the cheating, all of that. You know that it's a problem because it's causing you suffering. So you say things like, Lord, Take my lying, my cheating, my drinking, my smoking, take it all. Make me new again. And in that moment, your spirit feels the presence of the Great Spirit. Your body is relaxed and feels lighter. You cleanse yourself emotionally. Your mind is not guarded. And for a moment, you actually believe that things are going to get better. Then a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a few years pass, and you're right back to where you were. You're lying, you're cheating, you're drinking, you're smoking, you're doing the things that caused you pain. You're right back to your old suffering. And the reason why you're back to your old suffering is because you surrendered the behavior, but you refused to surrender the parts of you that caused the behavior. You thought you could hold on to parts of yourself, and that's where you messed up. You messed up because you didn't surrender the parts of you that make you a drinker, a smoker, a liar, a thief, a cheater, and all that other mess. Your heart is still filled with old feelings, and your mind is still thinking in the old way. To surrender to the Great Spirit means to surrender everything. That your senses are no longer your senses, but His senses. That your thoughts are no longer your thoughts, but His thoughts. That your feelings are no longer your feelings, but His feelings. So I surrender. I surrender my name. I surrender my titles. I surrender my nationality, my ideas, my beliefs, my concepts, my wants, my don't wants, my likes, my dislikes. All of that is surrendered. All of that is handed over. And in essence, what I'm saying is I am dead now in this moment. I no longer exist. It is you who exists, and it's you who lives through me. And that's big. It's something to be taken extremely seriously. When you surrender that deeply, when you surrender completely, there is no fear of the enemy speaking into your ear, because it's no longer your ear. Your eyes will no longer lust or desire things that are harmful to your spirit, because this is no longer your eyes. That your mouth will no longer bear false witness, because this is no longer your mouth. At that level, your thinking and your feelings are completely aligned, and so your actions are completely aligned with the actions of the Great Spirit. And here is where you witness the beauty of the Great Spirit, because you surrender everything, and yet He lets you keep it. Now your mind is a gift. Now your emotions are a gift. Now your body is a gift. Your entire existence is a gift. And at the risk of losing some of you now who might click off after hearing this, I want to say that there's still work to be done on your part. Or I'll speak for myself. There's still work to be done on my part, because I'm still living in this world, and this world is full of distractions. Things that will remind my eye of the pleasures of seeing things. Things that pull me back into the lie that I exist independently from the Great Spirit. So what this means is that I, the Spirit, must stand at the gates of my mind and be watchful, be mindful of what comes in and what goes out. From the writings of the apostles, we know that Christ ordered us to love God with all our minds, heart, and soul, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. So naturally, when I look at myself, I see less of me and more of the Great Spirit, which gives me a great appreciation for the gift and makes me love the Great Spirit even more. Seeing more of Him in myself makes me love myself even more, which makes the second part of His commandment a lot easier, because when I look at my neighbor, I don't see my neighbor, I see the Great Spirit, and I love my neighbor as I love myself. And so now we can see the difference, that to most people, they surrender partially. In most cases, they surrender to their mind, to their idea of the Great Spirit, and go about their lives still lying, still cheating, still doing all these things. And they continue doing all these things and then blame the devil or blame Adam and Eve and say, well, that's just my nature. I'm inherently evil, and therefore I'm going to sin. What happens after surrender is you get to work. You start bringing in your senses. You start saying no to your mind. You say no to drinking, to lying, to cheating, to stealing, to harming others. You say yes to love, to peace, to kindness, to compassion. You say yes to life, realizing that there is no such thing as my life. There's no such thing as your life. There's only but one life that permeates the entire existence that we call life. And that's the life of the Great Spirit. And that's the only thing that truly exists. There is nothing but that. When you say those words, I surrender, you're emptying yourself out completely. And the real work comes in looking into myself and taking inventory. Is there anything left in there? Have I surrendered my thoughts, my emotions, my habits, my wants, my dislikes, my ideas, my beliefs, my concepts, my desire for heaven, my fear of hell? Have I surrendered everything and put my full trust in the Great Spirit? The mind will say, yeah, everything's out. Everything's empty. And you say, you too, get out of here. Be completely empty, because the Great Spirit cannot refill your cup if it still has the mess that you've put in it. Can you be honest? Have you emptied yourself out completely? Have you completely surrendered everything over to the Great Spirit? What did you find difficult to surrender? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you got any value from this video, please remember to hit that like button. It'll let YouTube know that you enjoyed this video and spread it to more people. Family, I pray that you empty out your cup and that the Great Spirit fills it with His love, His peace, and His joy. I'll see you in our next adventure. Peace.